Dr. Adrian Cole had always been a pioneer. His work in neuropsychopharmacology had led to breakthroughs in treating depression, anxiety, and PTSD. But his latest creation wasn't just a treatment, it was a revolution. A single dose could rewire the brain, dissolving trauma and unlocking untapped creativity. It promised to eliminate suffering at its core. The drug was hailed as a miracle, and Adrian became a reluctant celebrity. News outlets called him the savior of the mind. But in the quiet of his lab, Adrian wasn't so sure. The human brain, after all, was an enigma. Eufron 7 worked by amplifying neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and change. But there was a catch. The drug didn't distinguish between productive rewiring and destructive loops. If the mind was a garden, Eufron 7 was a fertilizer. And if weeds were already growing, it made them monstrous. Adrian first saw it in Sarah, a clinical trial volunteer. At first, Sarah flourished. Her crippling anxiety disappeared, and she began composing symphonies that left listeners in tears. But within weeks, her brilliance twisted into obsession. She stopped sleeping, unable to escape the symphony of sound and color her mind now created. One night she ripped the strings from her violin, muttering that they were singing too loud. The worst case was Jeremy. A combat veteran haunted by memories of war, he volunteered for the trial, hoping for peace. Eufron 7 erased his nightmares, but also his sense of identity. He began referring to himself in the third person, as though watching his life from the outside. One day he disappeared entirely, leaving behind a cryptic note. Adrian buried these cases, convinced they were outliers. But the whispers of doubt grew louder when Eufron 7 hit the market. Stories flooded in, people creating masterpieces one day and falling into madness the next. Artists painted entire rooms, then burned them down to erase the imperfection. Engineers designed revolutionary technology but forgot how to tie their shoes. Adrian received a letter from a mother whose daughter, after taking Eufron 7, claimed she had solved death and walked into the ocean. The world was split. Eufron 7 was hailed as humanity's next evolutionary step, unlocking genius and healing emotional wounds. But critics called it a Pandora's box, one that traded stability for fleeting brilliance. Adrian sat in his darkened lab, surrounded by files of data that told conflicting stories. Had he freed humanity from its mental chains, or had he simply replaced them with golden shackles? The Ethics Committee summoned him for a hearing, demanding answers. But what could he say? That the brain was too complex to predict? That the line between unlocking potential and unleashing chaos was razor thin? As the hearing loomed, Adrian took a dose of Eufron 7 himself, desperate to understand its effects firsthand. For hours his mind soared. He saw solutions to problems he hadn't even known existed. But then the euphoria turned. The whispers in his mind weren't ideas. They were questions. By morning, Adrian had his answer. He walked into the hearing clutching a notebook filled with revelations he couldn't remember writing. Eufron 7 doesn't just unlock the mind, he told the panel. It unlocks everything, the brilliance, the madness, the fragility. We thought we were playing God, but the truth is we were playing with fire. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy. Eufron 7 was pulled from the market, but its legacy lingered in the millions who had already taken it. Adrian knew that humanity would never stop reaching for the next breakthrough. The question wasn't whether we unlocked the mind's potential. The question was whether we were ready for what might come pouring out.